afternoon. This is Bobcat Update. I'm India Sherman with the news from Texas State University and San Marcos. Thank you for joining us. San Marcos woman in her 50s has died from COVID-19. She's the 55th person to die in Hays County from the coronavirus. According to local health officials, San Marcos now has 461 active cases. Since March 1st, there have been 629 coronavirus cases, 588 among students, and 41 among faculty and staff. The worldwide death toll related to COVID-19 now surpasses 1 million people, with 200,000 of those in the United States. With the fear of COVID still prevalent among students, the Center for Student Retention is finding ways to combat that fear and help returning Texas State students. Michaela Amundsen has the story.
The Center for Student Retention focuses on keeping students in school to finish their degrees. The center has several programs to achieve that goal. Tamara Corbier works for one called Students Who Are Parents, also known as SWAP.
We have a group of about 80 student parents, and again, it's all just like word of mouth, or like a friend will have heard about this and tell one of their other friends about it, or they'll see one of our flyers somewhere.
Along with several other programs within the center, SWAP has organized events for students who share common interests.
We're actually having a self-care webinar next week. And so the webinar is kind of in place of our luncheon that we would normally have for the SWAP students.
The Center for Student Retention continues to work tirelessly to help students across campus. For Bobcat Update, I'm Michaela Amundsen.
As of September 21st, restaurants are now allowed to fill 75% of their seating capacity. That's an increase from the previous limit of 50%. Bobcat Update's Shelby Copeland checked out a local restaurant to see how it was handling the change.
Yes, thank you. I'm outside in front of Kent Black's Barbecue, a local San Marcos restaurant. And now that Governor Abbott is easing restrictions in Texas, more guests are allowed to enjoy dine-in options around the state. After being in quarantine for so long, customers are saying that they are excited about the new rules.
Personally, I think that it needs to open a little quicker. My belief is that the longer that Texas stays shut down, the more damage it's going to do to people, way more than the corona.
Because masks are not required while sitting in restaurants, allowing more people inside them causes a possibly higher risk of catching the airborne coronavirus. But with so many people eager to go out to eat again, some are willing to take that chance.
I think it should be everybody's choice, either to wear it or not to wear it, because if I'm going to be able to take it off while I'm sitting at the table, I don't see what's the difference in walking around with it on.
Health officials will monitor how the increase in restaurant seating capacity will affect the number of COVID cases. The CDC still encourages anyone who leaves home to wear masks and stay physically apart. For Bobcat Update, I'm Shelby Copeland.
With restrictions lifting throughout the state, planned events are starting to make a comeback. Social distancing guidelines are forcing people to think outside of the box to continue their events as scheduled. Chloe McKenna tells us more.
The pandemic has caused a lot of havoc in the event planning community. However, businesses and organizations are creative in how they have been coordinating their events while still keeping their attendees safe.
So we've been around for 134 years. The decision to think about the fair differently this year was a very difficult one, but it was the best decision that we could make for the health and safety of not only the employees and the fair goers, but all of the vendors and partners that we have as well.
Virtual events have become the new normal in today's society. Being tech savvy has helped organizations keep in touch with their followers, especially if they can effectively manage their social media platforms.
We've been sharing stories that people want to hear, and it was all organic. And it's just because people want that good vibe feel. You know, they want something positive to look at because there is a lot of insanity going on right now.
Although the pandemic has caused many problems for businesses, they are still finding ways to host their events and bring some joy back into people's lives. For Bobcat Update, I'm Chloe McKenna.
High school football is back in action. School districts are promoting safety in light of COVID-19. Coaches and players must remain within their bubble while fans practice social distancing. Crowds may not exceed 50% capacity on both the away and home side. The Hays Rebels traveled north last weekend to play against the Vista Ridge Rangers. Both teams battled back and forth until Vista Ridge pulled away in the second half. It was the Rebels' first loss of the season, 62-35. The San Marcos Activity Center is open again, with new safety protocols to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Bobcat Updates' Priscilla Meza has the story.
There have been many changes made for the safety of the Activity Center members. A full list of the changes, as well as a new safety protocols video, can be found on the San Marcos Parks and Recreation website. Some of the changes include making reservations over the phone at least 24 hours in advance, no checkout of equipment, social distancing, and more.
New and returning members, as well as guests, must also self-screen for any COVID-19 symptoms before visiting the Activity Center. Some of the symptoms include new loss of taste or smell, cough, shortness of breath, headache, etc. If you have multiple symptoms, it is recommended that you stay home.
All the precautions, they have new scanning things where there's no contact at all. You're in, you have to hand sanitize, no contact for your check-in. You have to sanitize before you get in the pool, so you can only have one person per lane. It's pretty strict.
The new protocols promote safety, but they also hinder the way some activities are usually handled, like playing basketball.
I like it because they're just looking out for us, but then again, it's hindering us from playing full-on pickup basketball and 5-on-5 stuff.
The Activity Center is not the only place that has safety protocols. As parks and other city facilities reopen, there have been rules placed to avoid the spread of the virus. For Bobcat Update, I'm Priscilla Meza.
COVID-19 has changed the way many people are keeping active. With guidelines for social distancing in place, finding safe ways to exercise is more difficult. Jason Hong looks at some alternatives.
6 feet of distance is recommended to stay safely apart from others. However, when trying to stay active in public areas such as gyms, situations may arise where distancing is compromised.
So my typical routine for working out is I like to start off with running in the morning, whether it be about 1 to 2 miles, just to get the day started. And then later on that night, I have a gym at home where I could do some weightlifting.
While some people continue to be active in such places, others are not.
What I've been doing to stay active is walking around my neighborhood rather than going to the gym, because obviously I don't want to get sick. And I've also had some help with having a puppy because he keeps me active.
An alternative to working out in gyms is to be active outdoors. A walk around the neighborhood is an easy way for most people to get their needed workout. For Bobcat Update, I'm Jason Hong.
When we come back, we'll tell you about a river cleanup scheduled for this weekend, and we'll have reports on how some people are using graffiti and music to express themselves. Stay with us.
KTSW isn't just a radio station. It's everything that happens on the other side. For over 27 years, KTSW has allowed Texas State students to work together to gain real-world experience through volunteer and paid positions. At KTSW, students are able to flourish creatively by creating content for social media, shooting live in-studio performances, producing original web content, finding friendships along the way, and much more. KTSW is able to bring Texas State students together to find who they are and what they love to do. You think radio's dead? Well, you've never known a radio station like this. To join or to learn more about KTSW, go to ktsw.net.
San Marcos residents take care of their river. They do it by getting involved 6 times a year in a community-wide cleanup. The fall cleanup occurs this weekend and will take place from Sewell Park to Stokes Park. Volunteers are needed to pick up litter. If you're interested in participating, sign up at the Fall River Cleanup 2020 website. Due to COVID-19, the cleanup will be different from the past. Groups of 10 or fewer will work together while wearing masks and practicing social distance. A daycare center in Kyle has a mission to empower and teach children in ways that will help them feel connected. Bobcat Updates' Robin Hicks has a report on what Kids Corner is doing to create a sense of belonging.
The mission is rather simple: Find ways to maximize each child's potential.
Daycare early on helps instill routine and instills different values that you might teach at home, but just because you know them at home doesn't mean that you do them everywhere else. We practice safety, we do fire drills, we practice safety outside. There's certain things that you can and can't do. Cleanliness by washing your hands, wiping off your face.
The kids learn how to approach situations appropriately, as well as take care of themselves and their classroom belongings in ways that are fun and rewarding.
We teach responsibility over yourself by, simple things like pushing in your chairs, making sure everything in your cubby is organized. And then on the note of cubbies, that also helps children feel like they belong here as well, because they have a name, their name on a cubby. They have a place for where everything goes. And that's the other thing that we have here. Everything has a place.
The daycare staff believes hands-on activities help build relationships between the students and the teachers. And by allowing them to experience this sense of responsibility and diversity instills positive values. For Bobcat Update, I'm Robin Hicks.
Texas State's Alkek Library has always been a massive staple on campus, both in its physical size and the resources it provides. Let's look inside with Tyler Carthel.
When Alkek comes to mind, students often think of the huge, white structure in the middle of campus and its quiet areas available for studying. While these are facts about Alkek, the huge building offers so much more. Besides the study areas, there are also dozens of computers for students to use and thousands of periodicals, books, and databases to assist in research and study. Senior Cynthia Bryant says the abundance of information is important to her.
I'm grateful that it was there because it definitely impacted how successful I was, and I'm very, very, very glad that I'm able to have that information.
The reading materials at Alkek might be impressive, but where this star shines is in its hands-on tools it provides. Alkek's first floor, known as Alkek 1, is a new space where students can take advantage of VR, 3D printing, design, and other emerging technologies. Students and faculty may take a variety of workshops to learn how to use the Alkek 1 technologies. For the time being, the library is enforcing social distancing policies that might limit the use of the resources, but with a little effort, the technologies provide creative ways to apply knowledge.
But definitely now that I know about it, I think I'm going to go check it out. I think a lot of it could be used to my benefit. I could use some of the cool stuff that I'm working on, and I hope that I get to go check it out soon.
Alkek has tons of information, and students can access much of it through the library's website. For Bobcat Update, I'm Tyler Carthel.
According to the Department of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, furloughs for more than 13,000 employees will be avoided until the end of the fiscal year. However, this means that they will have to make spending cuts in other areas of the agency. Bobcat Update's Leah Lansfier has the story.
Aggressive cost-cutting measures at USCIS have impacted naturalization wait times for people who have applied for a green card. Visa holders who have waited a long time to be able to apply are now having to wait longer before they are given an interview.
I am from India, and India has a huge backlog because there are a lot more applicants from India. And the backlog is so bad that the wait time can take up to 25 to 30 years. So even though my employer applied for my green card about 6 years ago now, I'm still waiting for it to come through. The other option for me is to now sponsor my green card through my spouse, who is a US citizen. And that process actually is a lot quicker. Typically, it can take 6 to 8 months, and you should have it from the time you apply. But unfortunately for me, because of COVID, there have been a lot of delays. All of the processing times for all of the green cards are taking twice as long, if not longer.
In April, President Trump issued an executive order that suspended entry of certain new immigrants who did not already have an approved immigrant visa. This has left many who are in the process of applying for a visa in a precarious position.
That was pretty stressful because his order wasn't very specific. We didn't know if it was a blanket ban, if there were specific categories. B, we didn't know if she would be allowed in the U.S. in the near future.
There are also people in the U.S. who are on tourist visas that became stranded during lockdown. On our next edition of Bobcat Update, we will take a look at that issue. For Bobcat Update, I'm Leah Lanfear.
Sexually transmitted diseases can be spread from one person to another through sexual contact. Anyone who is sexually active is at risk, so it's essential for people to practice safe sex to prevent the spread. If you contract an STD, it's important to seek treatment because if left untreated, the disease can lead to more serious health problems, such as damaging one's immune system. More information about STDs can be found at the Students Health Center at Texas State. San Marcos has many local arts attractions for students and tourists to enjoy. When you take a walk between the buildings on the square, you'll find several murals. The murals coordinated with graffiti would not be possible without behind-the-scenes support. Jason Arline talked with one of the artists.
Chris Mendoza is a local graffiti artist in San Marcos. He and other Central Texas artists get together to paint the graffiti and murals. Chris says San Marcos local Davis Bettis coordinates most of the art.
It's just a bunch of work just pouring out. It just started a while back from just main guy named David Bettis. His flock was real, everybody knows him around here. He's the guy who puts all this stuff together. And he was the one lucky enough to bring the community behind this.
Much of the local art follows the theme that helps bring the collection of works together. A solid backdrop is painted over the walls beforehand, and then artists incorporate that color into their works. This allows multiple projects to be painted throughout the year and gives many artists a chance to have their work shown.
I've actually did a Yoda here a while back. It got buffed up. They stick around for about 4-5 months-ish, you know what I'm saying? Like some of these pieces right here have been longer for about a year and a half. It all just depends.
The community support for artistic expression is unique, and the works provide enjoyment and inspiration to students and tourists alike. For Bobcat Update, I'm Jason Arline.
We end today's newscast with a profile of two alums of Texas State who are making headlines in the music industry. Josiah Blackwood takes note with this report.
In and out. Kenny Rax and 281 Neek earned their bachelor's degrees from the university, but they have taken a different direction in life than their education would suggest. They say music is something they always wanted to be a part of, and is starting to pay off.
I mean, I've always been, music talent, musically, inclined, and you know what I'm saying? I've been offered a deal before while I was in school, and it was, a very sizable amount of money, and I figured if I could do that while I was in school, then if I had more time and resources through my networking in college, I can actually make something shake, you know what I'm saying?
Kenny Rax and 281 Neek are focused strictly on music. Finding work in some other field isn't in the cards now. They enjoy the freedom to work on projects in a recording studio.
I ain't got nothing else to do, so it's I'm at home and, I got a large amount of time on my hands now, so I feel like more than ever now is the time to be the most creative that I've ever been.
Kenny has been working on the Blank project for months. It's the first album on Kenny Rax's discography and will be featured on several streaming platforms, including WorldStar Hip Hop, which is the #1 hip hop site in the world.
It's gonna be on everything. Yeah, if your granny wanted to find it, she's gonna be able to. Anybody.
Although Kenny Rax and 281 Neek aren't using their degrees in how they make their living, they say they don't have any regrets going to school at Texas State. They say having completed their college education has benefited them greatly on their music journey.
I'm happy that I stuck with it. I got it done. It's over now. So, I want just to take that same energy and just put that into making my music, and how, I'm not going to quit because it's already it's in me already, it's not quit because I went through college. I went through high school, I went through school and I got it all done. So now it's I'm just taking that same energy and I'm just going to put that right into the music, and it's I'm not going to quit.
It just goes to show you can accomplish a lot by applying your skills. For Bobcat Update, I'm Josiah Blackwood.
That's all for today's newscast. Soon we'll return with another edition of Bobcat Update, where you can catch up on the latest from Texas State University and San Marcos. I'm India Sherman. Stay well.